Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast, goldenblack.com Saturday Simulcast. I want to thank our sponsors, sponsor of the Purdue Union Club Hotel, 811 Bistro, Boiler Up Bar, also, of course, the Boiler House Prime Restaurant at the Pete Dye Clubhouse. What a beautiful spot to go, and hoping to be there in about another week or so, a couple weeks for dinner, but what a great location that is as well. Now, today we have a special show. They're all special, but today we'll talk a little football portal updates in the first segment. Obviously, Barry Odom also had a press conference yesterday where he talked about how his support for Ryan Brown and the future of Purdue football. You can check our site for more information on that. But then in the second segment, Cathy Wright-Eger, leadership advisor extraordinaire, started the John Wooden Institute at Purdue. Also, she talked about dealing with today's mental health environment for Purdue student athletes in the class she still teaches them on campus in West Lafayette. Then third segment, Rapheal Davis, and a really interesting look at Purdue basketball, but also Big Ten basketball, what he thinks about the Boilermaker locker room, what he thinks about the wonderful world of NIL and the transfer portal and how that can impact players down the road or how he sees it. It's a really interesting interview, and I think they'll enjoy it. So stay tuned. Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison will join you here in a second. To UCLA. So anyway, that's going to be a good, fun show today. But I'll bring in my colleagues at goldenblack.com who I'd like to tell you I'm in the freezing cold. I'm actually not this week, but these guys are. And we appreciate that they got their galoshes on, and they're going to make their way on Friday afternoon to talk to Barry Odom. So if you're listening to this over the weekend, check out all the work as Coach Barry Odom's press conference at 2:30 Eastern, I believe it is, and he'll be giving the State of the Union, at least as it pertains to Purdue football. There'll probably be, Tom, as many questions as got at, maybe not quite as long as Mike Babinski a couple of weeks ago, but it's been a while since we've talked to Barry, and the opportunity to have a lot of things fleshed out. What's on the top of your list as you have a chance to talk to Barry?
Yeah, we did talk to him, I guess, on signing day.
That's true.
And in December. So, yeah, but now we have a lot to talk about, just with the portal, obviously, the acquisitions there. And, I think everybody wants Barry Odom's explanation on Kevin Kane's hire.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. And I think that's going to be a big question, too.
Sure.
Just Lamar Kennard, why he made a switch at running back coach, I think. And why he changed offensive line coaches.
Yeah,
I think for me, I'm interested in those things. We're going to get the same, kind of cliched stuff about the portal guys. I'm sure they're all super great guys and all ready to impact right away, and they filled every need, checked every box. But we'll get that kind of stuff. But I guess for me, it's just his take on the coaching staff changes. And I'm sure he's probably going to be asked about why they held back $6 or $7 million last year.
Yeah. Good question.
Fans are asked to buy in, and but they were holding back. I think we know why they did it, but again, optics matter, and I kind of wonder if I ever even let that out. If I'm Mike Babinski, I don't think I'd have said that, but anyway, it's out there, and people are wondering.
Yeah, a lot of questions certainly around that in the transfer portal, finances, everything. Dub, when you get a chance, obviously what would be on your list as you sit there and talk and hear what are you most interested to hear him say?
Yeah, it kind of goes along the same lines as Tom. Yeah. As far as the portal stuff, I'm curious to know, how different this portal period was compared to last year. Yeah. In the winter, particularly, and the kinds of guys that they were trying to go after and get. And then, beyond that, just, getting a better sense of the guys that are coming in, because we only know so much about these guys. We can talk to fellow writers as Tom's done. I highly encourage anyone listening to this to go read those. We can offer up our own thoughts, and we can look back at, what they did at their previous schools. But we're going to learn a lot more here in the next few months Talking to Odom today, and then getting to see those guys in spring ball, and we still won't get the full picture until next fall, right? So, I'm curious to know about that kinds of stuff, and then obviously all the coaching changes as well. Just getting his thoughts on that.
Tom, you look at, for example, this week, Justin Denson from Michigan State commits to Purdue. You get a chance to talk to Jim Comparoni, our colleague at SpartanMag.com. Never a short conversation with Jim, I'm going to guess, but love Jim. He put he's about as high energy as he can when it comes to the Spartans. But what you've done a lot of those interviews with some of our colleagues. What intrigues you about some of these guys? And I know that there are a lot of names, and they're just names at this point in time, but they are guys that Purdue desperately needs to make a difference next year. Denson being one that looked like he might have been threatening a starting job at Michigan State, if I read but who knows? And Purdue needs guys to be difference makers everywhere you turn. But anybody that jumps off the page at you guys you've talked to here in the last week or so.
Yeah, I do get the sense it seems to be a higher quality player overall than what they were able to get last year. I think circumstances, last year sort of maybe tied their hands a little bit, getting a late start, obviously. They really had to speed shop, if you will, sort of like that supermarket sweepstakes show. You see pushing your shopping cart 100 miles an hour through the aisles, just throwing stuff in your shopping cart.
Yeah.
But that's obviously an exaggeration, but I think there was some of that probably. They had spots to fill, guys. 54, they signed 54 portal guys between the two portal periods.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, 28 this round. And I don't know, there's interesting guys, I'm fascinated by anybody who can make plays, because Purdue's desperate for playmakers. Who doesn't love a playmaker?
Yeah.
Travis Terrell, the running back from Jackson State. He's not a real big guy, the typical water bug, but you watch some of his highlights, and he runs back kickoffs and punts. He's just sort of electric. He's a real speedster, a guy who can change directions and go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. So that's a guy I'm really interested to see if he can make that jump from FCS to the Big Ten. Again, he could be a real difference maker for you, and a guy who can just make a play before get you a first down when you need it. I'm not sure. Somebody asked me today how I would line up the offensive line. That's the one spot that had the most portal additions with 5. And we know they changed offensive line coaches as well. So, boy, the spotlight's going to be on the OL with these newcomers and new coach up front. Outside of Joey Tonona, left tackle, it looks like it's going to be wide open. I think the kid from South Carolina, Stanley, Boaz Stanley's probably going to be your center. Maybe we'll see Marcus Easley, I think, get a starting guard spot. I think maybe the other kid from South Carolina, Jatavius Shivers, he's a giant kid, looks like a classic right tackle. Maybe he's a guy ready to start. And maybe Mark Nave or Jude McCoskey's ready to play at that other guard spot. So a lot of moving parts on the offensive line, and it looks like they may have a couple keepers in the portal additions up front too.
Dub, 28 total portal commits we've talked about. And I know that the second you say, "Oh, there'll be no more," somebody else will chop it. And I know the portal's been closed for 10 days.
16th, it closed the 16th last Friday.
16th, right? So that's right. So just a week. And my point is that what are your expectations? 28 seemed a little bit more than we thought. We talked about that last week, but ends up being the reality. But are there more to come? And I guess there could be more to come throughout. There's no deadline really for them now, except one would think that the ones that would commit now would not start till summer in terms of school.
Yeah, I think they got the vast majority of their work done already. I don't necessarily foresee any new additions in the immediate future. Now, say they go through winter workouts or the Winning Ed program prior to spring football, and someone goes down or someone isn't what they thought they would be. I could see Purdue adding to positions, but as of right now, I don't really see anything. glaring or haven't been hearing anything in terms of, positions they could be looking at, players they could be looking at. So I think it's just a wait and see mode. Every year it feels like, a couple of JUCO guys get added in late spring. So maybe we could see something like that. But as of right now, I kind of see them standing pat.
Tom, some former players, and I may have missed the memo on this, that had said, Bingme is saying that spring game might be April 11th. I don't know. And again, you may have already reported that. Have they made determination on spring ball to your knowledge? And I know last year they were around that time. It might have been the week earlier, but you've got Easter to figure out this year on the 4th, and they tend not to do that, or the 5th, I guess it would be. But what's up from your perspective, or what do you know about how spring ball will be handled?
Yeah,
or do you know?
Yeah, probably ask Odom about that today if their schedule set. But yeah, I haven't looked at the calendar. My gosh, Alan, you already got us an Easter, buddy.
I know. Well, I'm in warmer weather, so that helps.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they have a spring game or what that will look like.
What they do,
so, yeah. We all know what those events are about. It's more just about kind of teasing the fans and kind of letting them know what the personnel looks like, and a good chance for the coach to kind of get out in front of everybody and get his players out there and begin his messaging. So yeah, we'll see what they do there, guys. But just circling back real quick to the shopping list, and players. There's still players in the portal, obviously, but again, it's kind of picked over already, right? Dub and I had texted a few times, asking each other, what else do you think Purdue needs out of the portal, position-wise? And correct me if I'm wrong, Dub. I think we both thought maybe they need another edge rusher. Right now, they only got 2 out of the portal.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need another tight end. They only have 1 out of the portal, and you got George Burhan coming back, and fragile, handle with care with that guy. And after those 2, you got the kid back from Wake Forest who transferred in last year, and I think a guy who redshirted as a freshman. I mean, it's not a real deep pool of tight end. I thought maybe they'd get another tight end, and I thought they'd get a kicker out of the portal. And we can talk about the prep kid they got. Dub can fill you in there, but.
Yeah,
I really thought they needed to get a guy like Mitchell Finneran a few years ago, an FCS kicker who's proven, kicked a lot of field goals at some level.
Yeah.
He's been out there kicking field goals in games. He's been there and done that. Purdue's going to roll the dice, man. They're going to go in next year without any kicker on the roster who's even attempted a field goal in college. Seth Turner's back, and they have another walk-on kid who's back, and you have the freshman coming in. They're going to roll with those guys, it looks like. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't imagine a portal kicker is coming now, though. So I don't know if Dub thinks there are any other spots that they needed to maybe add a few more players, but those were a few positions I thought maybe they could use some additions.
Yeah, I'm going to let you pronounce Purdue's 2026 kicker commit, or his first name, Jacobo. I don't know, Jacobo, would that be right? But talk a little bit about that. And also, too, and on a second follow-up, too, obviously you followed up, or the coaching staff followed up with the 2027, or followed up with the quarterbacks as well. And important, we all want to talk about quarterbacks and what that will mean for Purdue down the road.
Starting with Jacobo Echeverria-Lozano.
Nice.
Very
impressive.
I believe that's how you say
it. Yeah, there you go. You're on.
It made me wonder a little bit when Purdue offered him last week or the week before. Because I was like, I don't know, you got Porath, you got Seth Turner. Why are you offering a full scholarship to a high school kicker? As it turns out, a couple days later, Spencer Porath is off to South Bend to join Notre Dame. So that was kind of the reasoning behind it. And, Echeverria was a guy that had been on Purdue's radar for a while. He came and camped in West Lafayette last summer. James Shebus even went and saw him kick back in May in Pennsylvania, Upper St. Clair High. So, he's a guy that was on Purdue's radar, and, a spot opened up, and he was super accurate this year, 17-18 on field goals, along a 41. So we'll see if he can kind of extend that range. I think you need to be closer to 50 in the Big Ten. But, talented, and he's a guy that I think James Shebus really liked during the recruiting process. The interesting thing now is he's not going to enroll until the summer, obviously, signing so late. So it's going to be a two-way battle between Seth Turner and Jake Weeder, a walk-on kicker who's on the roster last year. Can Echeverria get up to speed once he gets here this summer? That's going to be the question. And I think that's going to be a key position battle throughout the fall even. So a super talented guy, had an offer from Ohio State. Ohio State ended up taking Hawkins from Baylor, a transfer. So I think that helped Purdue, just being able to offer a clear path to contributing right away. And I think that's why they ended up getting him.
Yeah. With the quarterback situation, obviously they checked in this week with the 2027 guys, but always a focus of any recruiting class and or portal class and or the coverage of a football team is the quarterback. What's up?
Yeah. So, prior to for months and months, I think, as our readers would know, I kind of zeroed in on Israel Abrams and Ben Musser as the top two guys for Purdue. I think you're starting to see them check in on other targets and then potentially expand that board. Abrams and Musser are both supposed to be here or be in West Lafayette on Saturday. We'll see how many of those visits actually take place
because of the weather, right?
Yeah. But that would be key to get both of those guys on campus. I know, Abrams, Barry Odom, and Darren Henshaw were both at Montini Catholic yesterday, I believe it was. Presumably seeing Abrams, and then Darren Henshaw went to Georgia to see Ben Musser as well. But there's, several other guys. Jake Nahrot is a guy that I really like. He's an uppercomer. Sat behind Colton Gambino at John Hersey and over in Illinois. His predecessor ended up going to UCLA. Nahrot got his chance and he's really picked up steam as a late riser in the class. And he's a guy that, has visited Purdue a couple times and I think would be a really good option for them. And then you look at a guy like Dane Weber, who, they had offered previously. I don't see them as much of a player in his recruitment. Oregon and UCLA just got involved. He really likes Cincinnati and Kansas. So I think that's, Purdue just going out there and then kind of seeing him. They did a in-school visit with him last week or this past week. And then two potential flip candidates. Camden Lopati, 4-star quarterback out of Utah, someone that, Tom and I wrote about a lot this summer. He was their top guy and ended up going to Illinois. Purdue went out and conducted an in-home visit with him and his brother, Titus Lopati, who's a 2027 offensive lineman. So that's something to monitor. I wouldn't expect anything immediate to happen, even if Lopati does flip. I think that's a scenario in which you got to play the long game and stay in contact, kind of like what they did with Jet Goldsberry, and hope for something that kind of opens the window for you. And then Joaquin Kavuklis, I cannot say his name.
Yeah,
I was good with Echeverria, but I cannot say his name. He's a 3-star quarterback from Florida. He's a guy that had an existing relationship with Darren Henshaw, going back to Henshaw's days at UCF. And, he was one of the first offers, I think, from Henshaw when he got to Purdue. He was committed to Arkansas throughout the Sam Pittman firing, kind of stayed with him and just until yesterday. And he backed off his pledge and Purdue, Miami, Penn State, and Virginia Tech are kind of in the mix for him as well. So a lot of options out there. More options than I thought they had previously. So we'll see which guys they can get on campus, which guys, they can potentially make a run at. And as you guys know, you have to get a quarterback to kind of build around in the class. So getting one of those guys in short order would be huge.
Yeah, no question. All right. That is why if you're not subscribing to goldenblack.com, you should. The work both of Dub Jellison and Tom Dienhart, comprehensive on the coverage of Purdue. Nobody covers Purdue football recruiting portal more than these two guys do, and we appreciate that. So Gentlemen, stay warm, and if you're traveling around this weekend, be careful. But we appreciate that. We'll look also for those of you that are watching us on Friday afternoon. Of course, there'll be a lot more on Barry Odom as well. So we'll be back in our next segment, and that we'll be joined by Cathy Wright-Eger, and then of course Rapheal Davis will round out the show. Gentlemen, have a great rest of your day, and thanks so much. As always, great stuff.
Take care, fellas.
Cathy Wright-Eger joins us, and always a privilege for me because this is I'm getting up in years, and Cathy isn't. That's the good thing. She hasn't aged at all. But the best part of my job is getting a chance to talk about things. We all love sports. We love competition. We all, are happy when our team wins and sad when they loses. But this is kind of the nuts and bolts of why, and my interest level, and that's leadership, which nobody does it better than Cathy Wright-Eger and has done it for years. And what helps make not only student athletes but people tick. And maybe at the end of the day, perform better, not only as athletes, but as people. But Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alan. It's just an honor to be on the show. It's been a few years, and I'm super excited. This is the highlight of my week.
Oh, dear. You need to have a better week. But no, that's all good. All right. And your role has been a fascinating one, and leadership is everything. And Purdue, disappointing for Purdue fans, but still had a terrific basketball game at UCLA, and a guy named John Wooden, and who is near and dear to your heart. You started the Leadership Institute at Purdue under John Wooden, but that tie of what he means and what his message means still resonates a lot with you, I'm anticipating.
Yes, absolutely. It goes back to my core values, and leadership was one of them. And honestly, when I was in junior high, I had to write a paper of what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I wanted to be a coach and a teacher.
Yeah.
And my dad brought me the John Wooden Leadership Pyramid.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you want to be a good coach and a good teacher, you need to implement these 15 characteristics. So it goes way back. And so after I, hung up my stopwatch and stopped coaching swimming, to be able to lead the John Wooden Leadership Institute for the student athlete, the coaches, the administration, it was just a dream come true.
And you have that chance with a guy, and I was telling people that Purdue's statue of John Wooden is actually more prominent, a better statue, I should say, just because they have the whole pyramid of success outside of Mackey Arena. UCLA has it inside of Pauley Pavilion. But you talk about a guy that embodied everything that in today's NIL rev share world, you still need to have a lot of those characteristics, and it makes it even more challenging, I would think, for coaches and for student athletes to persevere in this environment.
It really is. And you think back on those 15 characteristics that he really implemented in everything he did in his life, personal and basketball. But that was back in the 60s, Alan, and that was a turmoil time also. And so those characteristics are timeless. Like, they were good then, they're good now, they're good for the NIL and wherever, the college scene is going. I mean, we're going to hang on. That's something we can control. Is who we are and what we stand for and what our core values are.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what currently with CWE leads, and also your role. You still are teaching a class at Purdue and for Purdue athletes, and still doing some consulting, as I understand it. But get us up to date on what's going on with that.
Okay, so when I retired from Purdue in 2020, full retired, I started my own business, and Purdue was the first company to hire me, and I love that. That made my heart sing. So they hired me to teach the EDPS 490 class. Yeah. And it's been in place for a long time, but our psychologists used to teach that, the university psychologists, which was really good. But then it got to the point with mental health issues and anxiety, that they had to drop all outside things and they had to focus on, their students and one-on-one counseling. So then we were kind of left with like, who's going to teach this class? So it was like a perfect storm. I was like, I'd be glad to teach it.
Yeah.
I'd love it. And it'd be a way for me to keep my foot in the door with Purdue athletics. I wasn't ready to retire completely, but Alan, I was getting a little burnt with the 12-hour days.
Yeah.
So to me, it's perfect. And it is a class that is 2 semesters and that student athletes do get a credit for it. It's not 16 weeks, it's 8 weeks long.
Yeah.
We meet twice a week for an hour each day, Monday and Wednesday, for 8 weeks. And it is something that I just think, actually, if anyone asked me to speak to a group, they were like, well, why don't regular students have that class?
Yeah.
Why is that just for student athletes? And one of the things that I think that makes me an interesting teacher and a good fit is I kind of look at my class and the objectives that I pick. Of course, I go through, our administration and really our academic advisors, like, what do you, and the coaches, like, what do you think they need? What are you seeing? What trends, like, what things can I hit on? But really, I look at it like half mom, half coach. And, like, you guys better be in there doing the right things. So I kind of think that class is like basically under like an umbrella. I'm the assist. Yeah. I'm behind the scenes, like saying the things that the coaches are saying too, but I'm saying it in a little different way, and kind of getting them to reflect, like, what do you think the coach would say about you right now? Yeah. If I picked up the phone and said, hey, what do you think about Alan Carpet?
Yeah.
What do you think the coach would say? And they'd be like, well, I've been late like 4 times. I go, yeah. Like, I'm trying to get them to like see it through other people's eyes, and like accountability, like their mom, their dad, their grandma, whoever helped them get to where they are, they're not here anymore. Like, literally, it is up to them to be accountable.
It's interesting, and coaches need help too, and in ways, and you tell the story, and again, I was relating back to an article that Mike Carmen wrote about you in 2020 at about the time of your retirement, but about, here you are, you start as a head coach at the ripe age of 26 now. If people do the math, they're going to be able to figure out where we are here. But a year later, your dear son and former Golden Black intern extraordinaire, Tyler, one of the great young men, he's still a young man in my view, but he gets, how do coaches deal also? They got families, and they got to coach that. You got to coach and love your family and your kids, so to speak. And then you have your team that's your children, so to speak. How is that dynamic? You brought a lot to the table because you lived that for a long time in your 22 years of coaching with Purdue swimming.
Yeah. My way of doing it is almost to integrate them, like I would share with our 2 sons, some of the mistakes that some of the athletes would make or the swimmers would make. So they're like, whoa, these are real life situations, and they can see kind of the consequences. I would also share with the athletes what it's like juggling being a parent and having a full-time job. And they don't get it then, but what is so cool is like 10 years down the line, my phone, I can't tell you how many
I'll bet.
every day, like, you never said it was this hard.
Yeah.
How do you go to work and be a good mom and be a good wife? And I love that part that they're remembering some of the lessons that didn't really equate to them at that time, but they're remembering that, later on. And that's the same with the freshmen now. Sometimes, like, I had someone tell me the other day, say, you kept harping on our whole class about sleep, get sleep. Yeah. You want to be a good student athlete. Sleep is for your brain and your body, And she was like, it just went in one ear and came out the other ear. But she said, my sophomore year, I thought, I wasn't really happy with my freshman year. I'm going to try sleep. And she said she's had all PRs, personal best, all year long so far because sleep. So sometimes, this as a parent, sometimes, the message isn't taken right then, but you are planting a seed.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I love about working with the athletes. And I feel like that in that way, I can help the coaches, because really I'm reiterating a lot of the same things that they're saying, Alan.
You know, it's interesting. And you coached in a sport that team, but it also so individualistic, and you can be it doesn't matter where you go to school, so to speak. If you have the best time, you're going to win. Right. And yet that's different than football. It's different than, it's a different dynamic. And yet there is a key team aspect. There's support that goes on in swimming, golf, you know, the more in track, maybe the more individual sports. But talk about that message that you give to student athletes about the difference in team dynamic. You know, a football player or a women's basketball player may look at their athletic experience a lot different than a swimmer.
Absolutely. I still will always, no matter what team that I'm working with, whether it's at Purdue or any other team, I always start with core values and a we before the me.
Yeah.
And that's a message that, I mean, a lot of them have heard it before, but in order to get where they are right now, it's been a lot of me.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, their coaches, their parents, their family have been focusing on just the, you know, the me part. And here I keep saying, you know, you're going to double your success if you think about we. You know, you think about the great athletes. Like I still think about Vince Edwards. I mean, how he took Carson, you know, under his wing and just kind of guided him. And I mean, that kind of, yes, it can be individual, and that's not selfish to take care of yourself and put yourself first when it comes to sleep, you know, nutrition, schoolwork, being on time, all of that. That's not selfish. That's doing the right thing. But if you can think about the we, like, how can I help someone else? How can I, like, I see someone struggling. I see someone, you know, dropping a pass or making an error at the end of the game. That's when the we really comes in with the teamwork. You know, like, you surround them and say, hey, you didn't lose that game for us. You know, that game was 4 quarters, or that game was 2 halves, or that swim meet was, you know, 16 events. So I think, you know, I think the highs can be higher and the lows can be lower. If you just, you know, if you embrace the we part, I think the highs can be higher. If you don't, the lows are going to be lower, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's well said. And, you know, you look at this year's team, and without asking you to speak out of school, but you observe, you've been around all these guys in one form or another.
Yeah.
It appears, I mean, I think it's pretty universally known that Matt Painter's team has got a bunch of good guys. They're really good people.
Yeah.
They're hard workers. They had a disappointment on Tuesday night. Braden Smith, who is a leader by no matter what, because he leads by, he has the ball in his hands, and one of the great point guards in the history of college basketball. But talk about some of the dynamics you see on that team, and from a broad stroke perspective, how this team's, not necessarily stacks up, but how they lead, and maybe how Matt leads with them.
I had a guest speaker in my class yesterday, and he was like, now, you know, how's the coach going to handle that loss? And I was like, you know, I have so much faith in Matt Painter. He's such a good teacher.
Yeah.
You know, he does exemplify the John Wooden. He is a teacher first. He is a coach and a teacher. He will let them sit in that. He will show them the facts.
Yeah.
They were out rebounded. He will show exactly poor shot selection sometimes. And then he'll point out the things that they did really well. He'll let them sit in that a little bit. He's very good at that. No excuses. He, you know, he's not afraid to say the hard things. Who needs to pick it up? Who needs to do this? How they need to support each other. And then they'll get back to work. And the work, I always say after a loss, Matt Painter's teams are so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, because they will specifically work on what they didn't do well. I mean, I'll be at the game a half hour early on Saturday to watch them warm up, because there's going to be fire in their eyes.
Yeah.
And that's what I love that about Painter's team. And I like that about like the 3 seniors on that team. They really get it. Gosh, Alan, you should have them on your team and talk about how they hold their team accountable.
Yeah.
Because do you know, if you talk to any coach, the athletes holding each other accountable is one of the biggest struggles. And somehow Matt Painter gets his guys to do that. So in class last week, I asked everybody who holds them accountable. And here there's some kids that are transfers, they might be sophomores, but most of them are freshmen. And they're like, oh, my dad, my mom. I'm like, they're not here.
Yeah.
And then Omar, he says the upperclassmen.
Yeah.
They've held me accountable from the second I put my foot on campus. And that's the answer I was looking for. It should be the upperclassmen. That's a team culture that is student athlete led, like that. The coach, says the expectations, and then the longer you're in the program, the upperclassmen lead the way. That is what a true leader does. Even if they have to say, dude, you need to pick it up, or, hey, you need to get more sleep, or your attitude is, a little shaky. What can I do to help you? Let's go. Follow me. Jump in here. Let's go.
Yeah, I always use the example. Fletcher Lawyer, one of the great three-point shooters in the history of, is going through a tough time shooting the basketball, or at least he did it at UCLA and somewhat at USC. But I watch him, and this is why some fans say, oh, you maybe need to find somebody else to play. He's going to play because he holds them accountable. And you watch him do it. He's a leader out there. Obviously, he's got to hit shots. We know that. And he's got to perform. But it's that fine line of – and he's a more demonstrative guy than Smith and Kaufman-Renn, different personalities, I would argue. But I do watch his leadership and a little bit more in your face. But and he holds himself accountable. That's
he does.
a good part.
And I don't have a shadow of doubt that he's going to pull out of it.
Yeah.
Because honestly – he knows there's highs and lows of being a good athlete. He knows that, or even in life, not just being an athlete. He has a good grip on reality. Yeah. And another thing too, what I like to, sometimes my husband will go, did you see that? And I go, no, I was watching the bench. I love to watch that. Like if he's not in, he's talking about plays the whole time. He's like pointing out, seeing, observing, and he's stretching. The whole thing is getting ready to get back in and help the team. Yeah,
I am amazed at this team, and not to gush, but it is. I have my angle is, when I sit sometimes in my seat, I have a great angle across the court at the bench, and I've not seen many teams, and this is that cheer for each other. Omar Meyer may hit 3 jumpers in a row, which could, in theory, impede somebody else's playing time, and they're still cheering like crazy for him. And that is a very good sign for Purdue moving forward. Now, our next segment guest is someone near and dear to your heart and to Purdue heart, Rapheal Davis, and they're one of the great individuals. I call him the Martin Luther King of Purdue athletics, and he really is, because he's doing so many things. But it was a seminal moment also, and I remember in Mike Carmen's article writing about what that meant. Because he went through difficult times at Purdue. He finished last in the Big Ten his sophomore year. They turned it around. He's a leader by nature, but he had to bring it out. But a very special experience with a guy like Rapheal Davis.
Yeah, he is. He's super reflective.
Yeah.
And I can still remember. I mean, I'm sitting in my home. I can still remember the seat he sat in our great room, when the team told him, dude, you're our leader. And he was young. I mean, he was young, but he didn't even realize how much impact that he made on the players. They were like, you're our leader. And, we're giving you the green light to lead us because we aren't quite sure what to do. Yeah. And I mean, that's a perfect lesson of, I've gone to so many clinics about, staying abreast of, what touches this age group.
Yeah.
One of the things, Alan, is they're saying that the students are listening. The three ways they get information are their parents and their peers, and then the internet. So internet knocked out coaches and teachers.
Yeah.
So that really made it that much more important that the peers step up.
Yeah.
And that's what, his peers stepped up and said, "You're our guy." And he, like, honestly, I kid you not, he was like taken aback. He really he underestimated himself. And I mean, I felt like that they opened the door and he just went through life. He hasn't stopped going through it. Like he's someone I really have a lot of respect for, personally and professionally. I mean, because he does it the right way. He will say the hard things sometimes. Sometimes he'll say things that people are like, whoa.
Yeah.
But there's a reason, and he will stand behind his reason. And I love that about him. I can't wait to watch that episode with him.
Yeah, I mean, he is phenomenal because he's taken leadership not only off the playing court, but all the things he does in his personal life, and we'll hit it on that. He is, and he credits you, but he also, that in the meeting, the context was there was a team meeting, I think probably during, I know it was where they. I know Coach Matt Painter wanted to do it at the locker room. You wanted to do it at your house, and it went on for 2 or 3 hours. You told him it was time I had to go to bed. I being Cathy Wright-Eger, but that was an important thing about feelings, and it really resonated with this group. But way back 11, 12 years ago. Yeah,
it really was, and he took that team on his back.
Yeah,
but he didn't do it solely. I mean, then they started listening to Coach Paint and listening to what their role was. But he was the peer that was saying, you got to listen to him. He's told you what to do. Now do it. Like he was that liaison between the coaching staff and the players. And I think Painter has done a good job of getting younger people on his staff too, to keep that liaison going, and then having the leadership too. So it goes to the coaches, to the younger staff, to the upperclassmen, all the way down. It's a perfect, I mean, I hope he writes a book one day, and just lets people understand his philosophy, because it's working, and it's the right way to do it. It's the John Wooden way to do it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good blend when you have a PJ Thompson, a Sasha Stefanovic, and a Paul Lusk.
Absolutely.
And a Brandon Brantley, guys that are mature on both ends of this age spectrum.
Yeah.
Pretty good thing to have together. Okay, one last question for you, and in the wonderful world of the transfer portal and the wonderful world of seeing these 1-year guys, and I don't know how many of the guys that you're seeing that and I'm talking mostly football, but not exclusively, where you have. They're in their fourth school in the fourth year, and Purdue has some in football, and there are some grad transfers in there. But what's that message to them, and how much more difficult does that make it for somebody that's maybe on their fourth school or third school in 4 years?
It's it was hard for me to handle, and part of my the whole purpose of having the EDPS class is change management. It's a real phenomenon. Things change. If you don't change with them, you're going to be left behind. You can still keep your core values, but you have to understand that life is going to have changes. So I think, like, I've tweaked my class because of it. I used to have all freshmen.
Yeah.
I mean, now I have a couple seniors in my class. And you know what? I've just tweaked it to, like, how do you feel about this? How has accountability changed from going from one school to another? I mean, you've had to change 3 times now, in college. Like, is that an advantage? I just ask the questions and let them start talking about it. And some of them have a hard time with the change.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of them are doing it for family reasons, you know. The other thing is, on the other side, some of the players have expressed, like, you get close to your teammates, they're maybe your roommates, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's hard on the people that stay too.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to open some of the, if we want our team to be good, we need to open our arms and help them make the adjustment and think of that we versus me attitude. I mean, it's the way things are. So how can you make it better?
Yeah. Nobody makes it better than Cathy Wright-Eger. Thank you so much for your time. We could do a weekly podcast. I don't know if you want to see me that much, but it would be, it's just such a fascinating topic. And really it gets to the core of why why you support programs, why fans support teams, because you want to find goodness in them too. And we at Purdue's had its share of that over the years. Cathy, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time and most of all your expertise. And yes, the proud mom of Tyler and Tori. We have to get a Tyler mention in there because which is the second time, but a great family and of course a great husband and Rob. But thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Boiler up.
We are joined by Rapheal Davis, and a person that needs no introduction to Big Ten basketball fans, Purdue basketball fans, state of Indiana folks, on down the line. Ray Davis does it all. And Rapheal, we'll start with a little analysis about Purdue men's basketball. Obviously, the disappointing loss to UCLA on Tuesday night at UCLA, but the Boilermakers return home for Saturday against Illinois. Still, this is a competitive league. Maybe as competitive as any time in recent memory. But what's your assessment of what you saw, not only Tuesday, but just the league in general?
Yeah, the league is really good. I think it's top heavy. I don't think it's as deep as it has been in years past. I don't think it's as talented at the bottom. I think so. I think you look at the top 6-7 teams, it's really good there.
Yeah.
But I look at Purdue. It's been an up and down season, in my opinion. I mean, it started out really, really good. Then the defense took a hit a little bit, and then now it seems like the offense is taking a hit. I think the loss against UCLA, I just think you just can't have that from your seniors. Like the seniors just didn't show up on the road, and if your seniors and your best players aren't going to play well on the road, or they're going to get outplayed, you're not going to win a lot of games on the road. And I think that's what. Like C.J. Cox was great, but you can't depend on C.J. Cox to win you games on the road. I think you got 3 seniors that are all capable of winning you games. They've all won games for you. I think the offense is a little stagnant right now. We're trying to figure out how to get TKR going. You saw at the USC game, TKR is back at the 5 a little bit. So I think there's going to be some adjustments made over the next few days, but the seniors just didn't show up. And I get one of them not showing up, but all 3 of them can't not show up on the same night and expect to win.
You talk about leadership and accountability and your role as that. And that's an important – I mean, you obviously did that and went through a challenging time at Purdue where your first couple of years, the team wasn't where you wanted it to be. Talk about that challenge as a senior, and you'd had to do that where you have to hold yourself as accountable as you do everybody else. That can be a challenge for a Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, TKR on down the line.
I mean, it can be a challenge, but I mean, winning a national championship is a challenge too. So I mean, that's one of those things you got to pick your heart. So I think they just got to be better. They've got to because I mean, even if you can't score, like they struggle to score the basketball. And then you got to be able to guard. And then the way Donovan Dent just took over the game, I mean, he was the best player on the floor. It was nothing anybody could do with him. He was getting wherever he wanted to get on the floor. So I think the defense from the perimeter level has got to be better. I think you saw a lot of different rotations. Coach was trying to get guys out there that could defend a little bit. Because when it wasn't Dent, it was Trent Perry. And you look at Purdue this season, UCLA didn't have a bench point. Yeah. So I mean, you got to be able to guard. And at times this year, you just don't see it from a team standpoint defensively. Individually, you see guys that stand out. But from a team standpoint, as far as being consistent, it just hasn't been there. And I know you lose that UCLA game, but Purdue didn't necessarily play well in that Iowa game. Didn't necessarily play well in that USC game. And it kind of all hit its head when you get to Westwood.
All right, Illinois on Saturday, and Illinois is really talk about offense and talk about talent. You've watched them, the Fighting Illini, closely. Going to provide. I mean, yes, Purdue's at home, and that's a good thing. And maybe Purdue will have a chip on its shoulder after a disappointing loss. They seem to do a little bit of that after the Iowa State loss. Mm-hmm. What do you see in that matchup on Saturday?
I think Purdue will be able to run their stuff. I think that's going to help Purdue. I mean, you look at Illinois, especially without Kylan Boswell, they're not necessarily the pressure team in the half court defensively. So even last night, you watched that game that they play against Maryland, and they're not trying to turn you over as much. So I think Purdue will be comfortable more comfortable than they were against UCLA. I think Fletcher will have a better game. I think Fletcher will be able to get his shots off. I think you look at UCLA and the way they guard you. I mean, they fight you. And the way Illinois, those bigs can't really move as well. And I'd be curious to see how Illinois matches up with Purdue. Because if you just can't put David Merkovich, or you can't put one of those big guys on a Fletcher Lawyer. Even a guy like Jake Davis may struggle to come off the screen. So that's going to be interesting. But on the flip side,
yeah,
like Illinois is going to struggle to guard Purdue. But I mean, Andre Stojakovic went for 30 last night, and now the floor for the Illini is more spread. Like it's spread out a little bit because Kylan Boswell's a non-shooter. So you sub out Kylan Boswell, you put in Jake Davis. You got to guard Jake Davis. Now it's more space for Andre to play a little bit. So, and then like CJ Cox to me is an all-league defender, but CJ Cox can guard Stojakovic and guard Keith Wagner.
Yeah.
So one of those guys out of Braden or Fletcher, they're going to have to step up on a defensive end because those guys can get you. And then on the glass, you look at Illinois, one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the country. So from a size standpoint, you look at even Andre Stojakovic, Fletcher's going to have to hit. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out, how it flips. But I think when you think of Purdue, when they're comfortable and they're able to take care of the ball, it helps.
All right, from a January 23rd, 24 perspective, Michigan's really good. Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska. Handicap what you see, and again, we know it's every night on the road in the Big Ten is tough. Every night at home can be, but who do you like of what you've seen so far? Who do you like? Nebraska's been maybe surprisingly good, but surprisingly together. But is that your team of that really is the team to beat, or how do you view that the race down the stretch for Purdue and others?
Yeah, I think it's Nebraska for sure. I mean, just being undefeated. I mean, you can only win the games you play. And Nebraska being undefeated right now, not only are they undefeated, but they're playing the best basketball. Like, Purdue's going through some woes right now. I am concerned about Purdue's offense. I mean, just the spacing. I mean, I don't think Purdue can win a national championship without Trey Coffin-Red being effective on the offensive end. And then I think Michigan's extremely talented, but they don't always play hard. And they can they take those little lapses and you can get them. So I look at in the Michigan State offensively, sometimes they struggle. And then Illinois' defense sometimes is a question. So I look at Nebraska as the most put together team. I think on both ends of the floor, they know what they want. They have multiple guys that can beat you. We just talked about Purdue can't really go on the road and one of those three guys not play well. But you look at Nebraska, they've been able to go on the road and win without Rick Mass playing well because they got so many other guys that can beat you. I mean, not beat you with 12, 14 points, but I mean, go for 30 legit. I mean, Price Sanford went for 30 at Illinois. Braden Fager goes for 25 at Northwestern. Like, they got some dudes over there. Then they guard you. The way they scheme, it's almost like a 2-3 defense, but it's man-to-man. I think Nebraska right now, as far as Big Ten basketball conference play, I think they're the team to beat.
Yeah, it's interesting how you talk about how teams come together, and certainly Fred Hoiberg's done that there and surprised some people because it's Nebraska. I mean, let's be honest, they've never won an NCAA tournament game. Talk about that surprise, but also the way teams come together. So, Purdue's got certainly a foundation to build from, but you also hello there and welcome to the show.
He can't hear you.
She can talk about Purdue basketball too.
Oh, this is my son.
Oh, this is your son. I'm looking. Okay.
Yeah. I use the braids.
This is
Ace.
Yeah. Well, welcome.
He's walking away. It's all good.
No, and you look at those teams and you have that. You have things that come together, and not everybody. Obviously, nobody's picking Nebraska to win the Big Ten before the year. But things have a way of coming together with the right blend of folks.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing. Like, you look at Indiana football or you look at Nebraska basketball, you go to Indiana football last year, like Kirk Cignetti saying they're going to win a Big Ten championship before they get to this point. And I go to media days this season, Sam Hoiberg pulls me aside and says, hey, we can win the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't care where they were picked because in their locker room before the season starts, they're already planning to be in this position they're in. And then I think you, as fans, sometimes you look at exhibition games and you say, oh, they're fake games. Like, oh, they're not the real games, they're scrimmages. But like, some exhibition games are games. Like I get the closed ones. Maybe you're playing some zone, maybe you're working on stuff. But when you're playing on national TV and your best players are playing 35, 40 minutes, it's a real game. Yeah. When you go out there, Nebraska, BYU, both teams played that as a real game. So Nebraska winning that game early, it gives you an abundance of confidence. It gives you a level of security that we can compete at the highest level. But then it also showed Rick Mass that he was back. You know what I mean? He goes there, he competes against a top 10 team. He has 30. So when you're able to do something, when you always have the belief in the locker room early, and then you go and do something special early to start the season, I think it just got them off to such a marvelous path. I think you could take it either way, but I think Nebraska take care of BYU. It just showed how real they were early, and then they just showed. Now they just have to show you can win in different ways, and they could beat you in the 90s. They could beat you in the 50s. It's just they got really good leadership. Hoiberg is a really, really good coach. Never too high, never too low. Yeah. And they got Coach Painter would always tell me, in coaching, you want to be young and old. You want to get old, but you want to stay young. And you look at Nebraska right now, they're old. They're one of the oldest teams in the league, but one of the best players are freshmen. Yeah. They kind of got a really unique balance to where you got the old guys, but then you got this young pup that is just out there hooping and just going hard. And it's working out for those dudes.
Yeah. When you watch Owen Meyer play at Purdue, and here's a guy with a lot of talent that doesn't get a lot of minutes, and hit a big shot against UCLA. They put him in at the end of that game, but maybe they, like you were talking about, Coach Matt Painter's, trying to find that right defensive combination. I don't know, but here's a guy also that walks into a very old team in a lot of ways with a lot of expectations, and he's done some good things. But and maybe you have, but it's a chance to talk to a guy like that. What do you tell him as he continues to get through the Big season?
I just got to keep playing hard. He just got to keep chugging. He's in an awkward situation, in my opinion, just because he'd get more minutes if the perimeter defense was better around him. You just can't necessarily – this is just me. Like, I never talked to Coach about this, but it's my philosophy. Like, you just can't have Braden, Fletcher, and Omar out there for an extended amount of time. Just the perimeter defense just isn't. You gotta have CJ and Jakari out there. Sometimes you gotta have both of them. So I think he just gotta wait his turn in a sense. You've got to sit in it a little bit. You know what I mean? Because either he's because right now he's playing behind Braden, he's playing behind Fletcher. He's not really in that CJ and Jakari role. He's not a defender in per se. So I think just keep playing. Just keep going. Fletcher struggled the other night, so you go with Omar and he makes some shots and just keep taking the open ones. Be aggressive off the bench. Be aggressive in the time that you're in there. That's kind of what I would tell them. But then also watch a lot of film defensively. Because a lot of guys think you have to be quick. You have to kind of be athletic to be able to guard and get better at defense. But if you just watch the film and you get better at angles, you understand concepts, and you watch the team before you play them, and outside of just watching film in the locker room with coach, you go watch the games. It puts you in a better position defensively. But right now, I just think it's just tough for him because he's playing behind seniors, and then defensively, it just doesn't work with three guys in the backcourt that are kind of liabilities one-on-one defensively.
Yeah. Interesting about the term sitting in it, and that's Cathy Wright-Eger was on in the last segment. Matt Painter uses that a lot in terms of how you sit in it, and you had to sit in it a little bit even in your days playing. And what about that concept though? Because good coaches seem to let their teams do that. Matt Painter uses that word a lot. They used it after they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. That mentality, if you're where Purdue is, where you were the odds-on favorite, the betting favorite to win the national championship. It's a long season, but as you look at teams that are good at sitting in it and improving is a key factor, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think that's something I tell my kids all the time. Like, something gonna go your way, you don't run from it. You can't hide from it. You can't just tuck your tail and go hide in the corner. So I think it's something that you sit in it. You get through it. You learn from it. You go through the steps. You feel that hurt, so you can come back from it. So I think it's a great concept. It's one of those concepts that it's for sports, but it's also for life. It's something that a lot of these kids are running into with the transfer portal. Some of them go their way, they run away from it. It's something I learned through kind of the ways of life is that no matter where you go, your problems are coming with you. You're not leaving Indiana and going to California and thinking life is going to change. Like those same problems are coming with you, whether you're playing sports or not. So when you sit in it, you get through things. And you look at Purdue, we were last place in the conference, and we had the dudes that left and ran and tucked their tail. Life didn't get better for those dudes. You know what I mean? Like their careers didn't pan out and be it was great. So I think I take what happened at Purdue over that any day. And so we sat in it. We understood what was wrong. We fixed what was wrong. We didn't sugarcoat it. We had tough conversations, and then we got better from it. I think you look at Purdue right now, the leadership is quiet. Like Trey's going to show you how to do things through his work. Braden is going to show you how to do things through his play. And Fletcher's a cool dude, like real cool guy, but you got to have that dude in your team that'll be willing to fight the whole locker room for what's right. I mean, fist fight. Like there's a lot of times where let's fight. That sounds crazy, but move these chairs. You don't want to do it. Let's fight. So it's like I think this Purdue team, I think they're still searching for that guy. And I'm not saying fight per se, but you need that guy that's going to challenge other guys. You need that guy that's going to piss people off, or that guy's going to say, "Hey man, you're not guarding nobody. Like guard your man." Or you need somebody starts cooking, they switch. And you need somebody my job is to take him out the game. Forget everything else, take him out. So I think this team is figuring that out on the fly too. But like I said, you can't run from it. They can't point fingers. They got to figure it out. They got to sit in that UCLA loss, figure it out these last a couple of days going into Saturday and try to win the big one. Because one loss in this conference, I go back to P.J. Thompson's senior year. And they were primed to win the league. They had a really good year, that 2018 team, I think. And that one loss turned into two, and then two losses turns into three in a row, and now you're out of that race. You know what I mean? They had a chance where they could have been number one team in the country in 2018, but they had lost. The locker room fell apart. And I don't know if people even know that, but the locker room fell apart. And then you lose those games in a row, and then you get into a tournament, Isaac gets hurt, a team that could have won a national championship. So I think you've got to – because – those dudes were calling me. I remember those. I mean, they were calling me. They were trying to figure the locker room. They were trying to figure it out, but I couldn't help them anymore. So I think it's something that this coach can't do nothing. This is a lot. This is a locker room thing. So I think they got to figure it out between each other as seniors.
All right. One of the things that Rapheal Davis does better than anything else is his crew life, not-for-profit, talking about sitting in and walking the walk and doing the thing. Bring us up to date, because your foundation has done a lot, continues to do a lot, and some of the initiatives that are front and center for you.
Oh, this has been great. I've loved it. It's been absolutely amazing to think. The last 6 years, we've had over 4,500 kids come through our program. I mean, right now, we're in our winter basketball league. We have 125 kids coming to play ball every Saturday the next 7 weeks, and probably what the news would call the worst area in town. The worst facilities in town, which we grew up playing in, which we grew up learning the ball. So it's been absolutely amazing bringing all these kids from different walks. Because you have kids from the inner city that grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, but then you have Purdue fans who the kids love me for playing at Purdue, but then you also have, because not only is it me from Purdue, but Lisa Clemens, now Cooper, she played basketball at Purdue as well. So you have those fans there from Purdue, but then you also have folks that see us on the Big Ten Network and come for that. So you have just a melting pot of kids that normally wouldn't grow up together. So that's always great. And then from this winter league, we'll have our spring flag league, a spring break basketball camp, a spring league. But it's been tremendous. Our trip to Purdue last year took 130 kids up to Purdue from Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and East Chicago, and that's the biggest deal. Because we can teach kids how to play sports. Obviously, sports is expensive. We can be that for families, but if you could teach 50 to 100 kids every year, that they can go off and they can be engineers, doctors, pharmacists, or they can have roles like yourself, or they can run a goldenblack.com. They could be in basketball media. They could be photographers at NBA games, or be a Chris Foreman and run social media for a college program. That's the real goal. Because everybody's not gonna go play football at Purdue like I did, but everyone could use sports, or they could use something that we teach them to go off and have successful lives. And that's That's the goal. Like I always tell the young men and especially the high school boys that if you think it's easy, just be simple. If you can sell drugs on the street, you can be a pharmaceutical salesman.
Yeah.
So there's different ways and perspectives, but if they don't know things early, I didn't know what pharmaceutical salesman was until I was in college. So if I would have learned that at 8, I maybe want to be that at 8. So it's been really cool. And the coolest story I have is one of our young men. He started with us in the 6th grade. We took him to Purdue. This is before Zach Edey blew up. This is early. We took him to Purdue early. He got to see what Purdue was. Long story short, he's a junior now. And his goal the last 6 years has been becoming an engineer and going to Purdue. He's an athlete, yes, but he understands that, hey, I could walk on and be on the team, but I want to go to Purdue and be an engineer. So I think that's the goal of what we've been able to put together, and that's the fun part.
And it is an amazing. And you don't like to hear this because you don't like to hear people talk about it, but leadership starts at the top, and you've led by example and by being that guy. I've never been in a locker room with you, but I wouldn't want to be in the locker room with you if I wasn't performing. So that part is extremely important. You can support Crew Life. Tell us how people can and opportunities for people to support it, because it's extremely important in these days and these times, especially to have great leaders that are willing to take on problems.
Yeah, you can Rapheal Davis basketball.com. You go there and learn everything. The E is before the A. So RaphealDavisBasketball.com. You can donate there. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, social media, and things like that. Just shoot me a quick message, and I'll get you everything you need to know. And it never has to be a lot. I mean, we raise funds for pizza, and Little Caesars is good enough for us. So 5-6 pieces is good enough for us at a camp or anything like that. But it's been a lot of fun. And coaching the guys have been. The guy like Braden and Trey and those dudes have been great. Just doing different things, helping us be able to raise some funds and things like that. We had a big Zach Edey fundraiser. We were selling 5 photos of Zach. So the guys have been great. Coach has been great, and this has nothing like a lot of it was through the best way to get the kids to me was through sports, but this is so much bigger than sports, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no question. All right, last question. I promise I wanted to ask you just about the wonderful world of. You talked about the transfer portal and running away from – not everybody does it for that reason. We get that. But talk about the landscape of college sports, and you watch it. What makes you optimistic or pessimistic about – and maybe it's more in football than basketball, but it's still – there's just a lot of plates in the air for not only the kids that are playing, but for how this sports are administrated, how fans watch, et cetera. What makes you how do you see this 5 years from now?
I just feel oh man. I was gonna say I just feel bad. I feel bad for a couple of things. I feel really bad for the high school kids because our organization is youth. We go youth just to stay out of recruiting ages and stuff like that. So we deal with youth. But I noticed the kids get in high school and they just don't have support like you used to have in the youth spaces, AAU spaces, but then colleges aren't recruiting them in a sense. And I can't necessarily help them like I would want to, just because I don't want to be, you know what I mean? But with colleges now, you see, like my thing is pros shouldn't be allowed to play college sports. I mean, you saw it yesterday with Alabama. I mean, it just kills those high school kids. I mean, it just kills it. So I just think, and it's going to kill I just think the pros and the overseas guys, and once you're a pro, stay a pro. Like and that's part of sitting in it. Like don't go be a pro. It didn't work out for you, try to come back. Like that's so like go be a pro and be a pro. So I think that hurts the high school kid. I think the way colleges are scheduling, it hurts the mid-majors. I think everyone is playing a net game. And how can I get high in the net? And I play a bunch of really, really bad teams, and I play a few top teams. And whether I lose or I win, as long as I play them, it helps you. Because you lose a game to a good team, it's almost better than you beating a good mid-major team, if that makes sense. So if I lose to, say, Arizona, it helps me more than, say, this season I beat Miami of Ohio. So those Miami of Ohio's of the world, they're just not getting scheduled for the high major. But they need those high major games to get good seeding, to get – so everyone's talking about how how the Cinderella teams are going away, but the Cinderella teams are also going away because the net game, man.
Yeah.
You can't get a good seed if you're a mid-major if you don't play anybody. And that's what everybody says about Miami, when they haven't played anybody. But Miami of Ohio, they've tried to play everybody.
Yeah.
You listen to coach. So I think that's going to hurt. I also think, and the third thing I said I rounded out with, but when you ask about like the next 5 years, I think you're going to start to see those cases of those kids that had it all in college were making $500, $600, even upwards 7 figures, $1 million in college. And then they weren't NBA kids. And then you go overseas, you're only making that first year. If you're not a pro kid, you may go from making $700,000, $800,000 in college to making $30,000, $25,000 in Poland. And a lot of kids won't be able to handle that. And then two, now that I'm getting deeper, but now that you're allowed to smoke weed, I guess, in college a little bit, you can't do that overseas. Yeah. You're going home. You're getting banned. So there's some kids that make a lot of money in college. It does not work out overseas. And then they come home, and they're in the neighborhood they grew up in, and it gets bad for them. Yeah. Like, we're going to see it get bad for a lot of kids early, whereas though you're making all this money, and like just the story, and if like when you see professional players go broke, now that story's going to go into college, and I think the mental health of some of these kids, I think that's a part of the NIL landscape that a lot of people aren't talking about, and I think that can hurt families and that can hurt things. So those would be my 3 things that I'm concerned about. Be just the high school kids not having opportunities, the mid-majors being pushed out of the game, and then in 5-10 years, those stories about those kids that once had it all and they start to go to prison for a long time, or they're dead, or they're on drugs, or they're homeless. I think you start to see some of that.
Well said, and importantly said. And Ray Davis calls it like he sees it, and that's important because you got to have messages. You got to be able to articulate messages, and not all ones that are sunshine and roses, because it's not always that way for the absolute reality of the way things are. All right, look for Rapheal Davis's work. You can follow him on Twitter. You can follow him also, or support him at Crew Life. You'll see him on the Big Ten Network. And we appreciate you very, very much just taking the time to join us.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a great rest of your night. Good luck this weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Mackey Arena before long.
All right, cool. See you later.
Bye.
I want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel and the Boiler Up Bar, 811 Bistro. Of course, the good folks at the Boiler House Prime as well. Good way to deal with the cold maybe is get in there, get a hot cup of coffee at the Leaps Coffee, and make sure if you're traveling this weekend that you are being careful and packing extra blankets. You've heard that before as you travel around the state of Indiana. If you're in the Midwest, Kentucky, I understand the storms are going to get them as well. So we hope everybody stays safe over the weekend. And also a reminder, you can still subscribe to goldenblack.com. We actually have a website with over 5,500 members, and we appreciate all of them. But you can become a member even if you subscribe to us on YouTube. Portal special still going on, half off for the first year. It's a pretty good bargain to become a member of the biggest community on the internet. Get all of Brian, Tom's, and Dub's work on message boards at Knucklehead Central and much more. So we hope you'll continue to do that. Also, you can like and subscribe us on the YouTube channel as well. If you're listening to us on the podcast platform, make sure you give us a 5-star review and leave a positive comment. Or if you don't have a positive comment to leave, you can keep that to yourself. But no, have a great rest of your weekend. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week with another edition of the goldenblack.com Saturday Simulcast.